Alright, this is the Unit 2 test review. I just made this video and didn't know until the end that the audio was not working. So, I'll do this again. At least for me it's again. For you it's the first time. Alright, so subsistence agriculture. That is farming where you're only providing for your family and yourself and that's it. You're not providing for anybody else. You can't sell it because you're not making enough. Why we study culture? We study culture to better understand other groups of people, why they behave the way they do, and mainly to have tolerance, so we don't look down upon other groups or think we're better or anything like that. Diffusion, that is when an idea, or anything really, but mainly an idea, travels from one culture to another. A good example of this would be like McDonald's or Coke. So it started here in the U.S. and it's spread all over the world. Acculturation, that's when one culture adopts an idea from another culture and makes it part of their own. So that'd be like someone in East Asia wearing blue jeans. It's American clothing, but maybe they give up on their native clothing and start wearing that instead. Definition of culture, book definition: the knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors of a group of people that are passed on from generation to generation. Aspects of culture, so that's things like food, religion, family dynamics, things they wear, things of that sort. Innovation, that's when a culture takes a technology and makes it better or maybe even creates a new one. So examples could be like going from the corded phone to the wireless phone to the cell phone. Another example could be like Henry Ford developing the assembly line to help speed up production of cars, make them cheaper and more available to people. Why people mainly lived around rivers with early civilizations, and that was of course access to water, transportation, irrigation, food, all that they relied on from rivers. So that's why most early civilizations relied on rivers. Characteristics of highly developed countries, they're going to have high income, so high per capita incomes, per individual. They're going to take natural resources and make a finished product out of them. So they're not just going to take down trees and then sell the trees. They'll cut down trees, make paper and other products out of the tree, like furniture. And then they have the infrastructure, all the systems in place to keep a society functioning. The 4 different types of economies we talked about in class: traditional, which is barter system; socialist, which is where the government takes care of a lot of the things for you, like retirement; free enterprise, which is supply and demand, like we have; and then communist, where they have a command economy, where the government plans out what is going to be produced in that given year. We went over that. Specific examples of infrastructure, so it's going to be like education, medical, like hospitals, firemen, policemen, everything you need for society to run, sewage systems, all that. Different aspects of the religions we talked about, such as their founders. You need to know like where they worship, like Christians and churches, Jews and synagogues, Muslims and mosques, Buddhists and Hindus and temples. And know the region of the world where they originated from. You also need to know which ones believe in reincarnation. Population pyramids, you need to know what those show you. First off, it shows the age and sex distribution of a certain group, so like a certain country usually. And by looking at that, you're able to see, if there's been a war or a disease or something like that ravaged the country. You're able to infer what kind of infrastructure they have, the basic setup of the country. And you're able to see and predict the future growth of that country. Are they going to be growing over the next 30 years, maintaining, or decreasing in size? All right, one thing we didn't get to in class, there's a few of these, that because of time constraints on getting to the STAR test, a few things kind of have to get around as far as teaching goes. So push and pull factors. Push factors are things that push you out of a country, so like Mexico could be low wages and high crime. The pull factors into the U.S. would be higher wages and lower crime. Or you could be somebody retiring in the U.S. You want to retire somewhere that's cheap and beautiful. And so push factor would be pushing you out of the U.S. if you're in an ugly part. And then in pulling you into Mexico because they have obviously cheap housing. They have towns that are great for retirees. And you can live right on the coast and have a beautiful view with awesome weather all the time. So those are push and pull factors. The different levels of economic activity. Again, we didn't get to this in class, but it is in your vocab, so you did have something with it. You got primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. Primary is just gathering raw materials like the wood, like cutting down trees or picking cotton. Secondary is when you do something with that raw material, so you make something out of the tree like the paper or the cotton, you make a t-shirt. Tertiary, those are the that'd be like the people that take that good and then go off and sell it and make companies and stuff like based around it, like Old Navy sells clothes. Also, there's other people in the service industry like me, like education. People learn law enforcement, firemen, I'm a teacher, doctor, all that kind of stuff. So they're providing a service where there's not a tangible product with it either. So we get paid, and we get paid more than people at the secondary level, but it's still not really providing anything tangible. And then quaternary, these are the people that run these huge systems. So like if you were to look at a school district, it'd be the superintendent. If you were to look at a company, it'd be the CEO. So usually make the most money, but they're also in charge of several, usually 1,000 people. Also, just make note that a capitalist economy, other terms we can use to mean the same thing as free market and free enterprise. And you know why world population is growing, and that's due, it's really obvious. It's the birth rate is higher than the death rate. And so we have population growth. Urbanization, you know, that's people moving from rural areas to the city in hopes to find better jobs and better opportunities. And so that's why cities are exploding in population throughout the world. All right, you know advantages of suburbs over living in the central city. Generally, suburbs have lower crime, better schools, and also you have access to other suburbs around you. So generally, everything you need on a daily basis is right there. You don't have to travel far to get it. All right, and then different types of government. Theocracy, that is where religion or religious leaders control the government. So a good example of that would be Iran. With Ahmadinejad in power there. A totalitarian government, that's where they have total control over every aspect of your life. Good example of that is North Korea, where they literally control everything that you see, think, or do. Democracy, of course, that's where we elect our leaders, like voting for our president. They do the same thing in Mexico as we do here, generally. And of course, democracy is where people have the power. That's the idea. And then you know which religions have reincarnation. You can look that up on your little chart. Okay, some of these we've already talked about that, so I'm skipping some. All right, last thing we didn't really talk about in class is the types of natural resources. There's inexhaustible, renewable, and non-renewable. So non-renewable is going to be like oil, because once you run out, it's gone. And then renewable would be something that you can obviously renew. So like you cut down trees, you can plant new trees. And then inexhaustible, things that we're never going to run out of. That's wind power, solar power, and hydropower, so water power. And of course, eventually that will run out, but whenever any of that runs out, then all of humanity will die. So don't really have to worry about it. That would be the least of our problems. All right, dialect. That is basically a different variation of the same language. So for example, here in the northern U.S., people may say "yous guys" or "you guys," whereas we say "y'all" in Texas. Or up north they say "pop," whereas we say "coke." So it's the same language, just different variations. And then the last thing is types of borders. There's natural and man-made. Natural boundaries are usually rivers, but can also be like lakes. And river boundaries and stuff like that. And then man-made is going to be lines of usually latitude and longitude is what we use to mark that off. And of course, generally you can tell by looking at a map which one's which, because natural boundaries are usually squiggly because nature doesn't make long straight lines. Whereas then of course the man-made ones are long straight lines because they are rivers and things of that sort. So if you have any questions, just come in tutoring. I'll be here around 7:30 in the morning. Sorry that was fast, but I just did this already, and so didn't like repeating myself. Anyways, I'll see you all tomorrow.